Chapter 2 The Golden Key. Alice was not a bit hurt. She jumped up and looked around her. She caught sight of the White Rabbit, hurrying down a long passage, all the while exclaiming to himself, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how it's getting late!" Alice ran after the odd creature, which turned a corner and disappeared. Alice found herself in a long, low hall, lit by a row of lamps hanging from the roof. There were doors all around the hall. Alice tried to open each one, but all were locked. After she had been all the way down one side of the hall and up the other, trying every door a second time, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering how she would ever get herself out of this mess. Her thoughts were interrupted when she noticed a three-legged table made of glass just ahead of her. A tiny gold key lay upon it. Alice thought that she had found the way to unlock one of the doors, but she was wrong. Either the locks were too large or the key was too small, because the key would not open any of the doors. Alice was about to give up when she noticed a plush red curtain in the corner of the hallway. Behind it was a tiny door about 15 inches high. Alice put the little key in the lock, and to her great delight it fit. She opened the tiny door, knelt down, peered in, and discovered the most beautiful garden she had ever seen. "I'd love to be in there," she thought. "This hall is dark and empty, but that garden is absolutely gorgeous." Unfortunately, the door was so small that Alice could not get even her head through it. "Even if my head would go through," she thought, "it would be of very little use because my shoulders wouldn't. Oh, I wish I could fit through this door. I thought I could, if I only knew how to begin." Things had been so peculiar so far that at this point Alice thought almost anything was possible. There was no use in waiting near this door, so Alice went back to the glass table. Sitting on it was a tiny bottle with a label tied to it that read, "Drink me." "This certainly was not here before," Alice said aloud. Being a very smart girl, she was not about to follow the tag's instructions without thinking it over carefully first. Putting the key down on the table, she thought, "I'll examine the bottle and see whether it's marked poison." Alice had heard stories of children who had gotten into trouble because they had not followed the simple rule their parents had taught them. One thing she had always been told was that if you drink from a bottle marked poison, it is almost certain to disagree with you sooner or later. The bottle was not marked poison, so Alice decided to try it. The flavor was an odd mixture of cherry tart, custard, pineapple, roast turkey, toffee, and hot buttered toast. She finished it off anyway, and suddenly she began to feel very strange. "What a curious feeling," she said. "I must be shrinking." So it was. She was now only 10 inches high, the perfect size to fit through the door, and wander into the beautiful garden. Alice waited to see if she would shrink more, frightened by the idea of getting any smaller than she already had. "What if I keep getting smaller and smaller," she worried, "until there is nothing left of me? I wonder what I would be like then." When nothing happened for a few minutes, Alice decided to go into the garden. But when she got to the door, poor Alice realized that she had forgotten the little gold key. She could see it high above on top of the glass table. Now that she was only 10 inches high, she could not possibly reach it. She tried to climb up one of the table's legs, but it was too slippery. After she had tired herself out, a sad and frustrated Alice sat down and cried. She sobbed for some time, till her eyes fell on a little box lying under the table. Alice dried her eyes, opened the box, and found a small cake inside with the words, "Eat me" on it. "I'll eat it," Alice said. "After all, if it makes me grow larger, I'll be able to reach the key. If it makes me grow smaller, I'll be able to creep under the door. Either way, I'll be able to get into the garden." So Alice ate a piece of the cake, then held her hand on the top of her head to feel which way she would grow. "Which way, which way?" she said to herself as she waited, only to find that, to her surprise, she did not change size at all. This is what usually happens when one eats cake, Alice knew. But by now she had become used to expecting out-of-the-ordinary things to happen, so it seemed quite dull to say the same size. Disappointed, she nibbled on a bit more, and very soon she finished off the cake.